Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I was in big trouble. I had secretly taken my husband's Maybach for a drive and crashed it into a Porsche. Now once again, I had to rely on him to clean up my mess. Knowing I had no excuse, I obediently stood in the corner, punishing myself. Ryan took off his glasses and rubbed his temples. Even if a child makes a mistake, they still have to face consequences. My heart pounded every time he took off his glasses. I knew he was about to kiss me, but when he started removing his watch, that was when I knew I was done for. Was it too late to run? Now, having a husband to rely on was one of life's little pleasures. My husband, Ryan Carter, was a renowned top-tier lawyer in the country. He never lost a case. Every time he appeared as a guest on legal talk shows, he gained a whole new wave of female fans. After all, in the legal world, Ryan Carter's looks were top-notch. Sharp features, a chiseled jawline, piercing eyes under thick eyebrows, an effortlessly handsome man who had no idea how attractive he was. Yet despite everything, when it came to me, he was always at a loss. I had only gotten my driver's license recently, thinking it would be harmless. I secretly took his Maybach for a quick trip to buy groceries. Unfortunately, my driving skills weren't great, and I crashed into a Porsche that was switching lanes. The Porsche owner stormed out, fuming. He glanced at the severely dented rear of his car, then turned to me, pointing angrily. "Do you even know how to drive? Get out. Get out now. Let's talk about how you're going to pay for this. Did you hear me? Get out of the car." Oh no, this guy looked really aggressive. With trembling hands, I quickly called Ryan. What happened? His deep, magnetic voice always made me feel safe, but I still couldn't hide the tremor in mine. "Honey, I got into a car accident." There was a 2-second pause on the other end. Then I heard him speaking to someone in a composed, authoritative tone. "Apologies, everyone. Something came up at home. The meeting is canceled for now." I could already picture him grabbing his suit jacket and heading out the door. Even in a rush, he still reassured me. "Get out of the car and stand somewhere safe. Wait for me." I stood pitifully on the sidewalk while the Porsche owner kept berating me from a distance. I finally saw Ryan stepping out of his car. He was dressed in a tailored dark gray suit, probably straight from a client meeting. He walked quickly toward me, then draped his jacket over my shoulders. The moment he got close, I pouted, wanting to throw myself into his arms, but he frowned and firmly repositioned me. "Stand properly. We'll deal with this later." The Porsche owner had been ranting nonstop, but the moment he saw Ryan, his expression did a complete 180. "Oh, Mrs. Carter. No wonder the car looked familiar." He immediately put on a flattering smile. It's fine. I'll just call my insurance company." That was way easier than I expected. Well, I suppose there really was no problem Ryan couldn't solve. After handling the mess I caused, Ryan shoved me into the car and silently drove us home. The air in the car felt heavy. Sensing his mood, I wisely kept my mouth shut, following him inside without a word. As soon as we stepped in, I instinctively went to stand in the corner, facing the wall. Every time I messed up, I was made to stand in the corner as punishment, and usually I'd end up whining about domestic abuse, guilt-tripping him into apologizing. But this time, he was genuinely mad. With his arms crossed, he towered over me, his expression dark and serious. "How many times have I told you not to drive by yourself? Why won't you listen?" I lowered my head. "I wanted to go to the seafood market. You said you've been craving fresh seafood lately." My voice got softer and softer. Seeing that he wasn't responding, I quickly hugged him, looking up at him with teary eyes. "I was wrong. Punish me however you want." Instead of scolding me, he gently tucked a loose strand of my hair behind my ear. "The housekeeper can cook. You don't have to do anything. Just be happy. That's enough for me." Loving him was embarrassing. Even after all these years together, I still blushed whenever I said sweet words to him. But at last he smiled. It was just a faint, subtle curve of his lips, but I knew the crisis was over. I wrapped my arms around his neck, rubbing my head against him like a little kitten. If Ryan were a cat, he would definitely be a Maine Coon. Looking fierce on the outside but actually gentle at heart. But I had been too quick to celebrate. Even if a child makes a mistake, they still have to face consequences. His slender fingers pinched the gold-rimmed glasses as he took them off, his warm breath brushing against my skin. His deep gaze carried a dangerous glint. My heart pounded every time he removed his glasses. I knew he was going to kiss me, but when he started taking off his watch, that familiar sense of dread made my legs go weak. I knew I was done for. If I didn't escape now, when would I? I immediately gathered my dress and bolted. Behind me, Ryan called my name in a helpless tone, but I ignored him and shut myself in the study. I still have work to finish, I declared firmly through the door. His voice remained coaxing, almost persuasive. Be good. Finish it tomorrow. No, right now. I felt exactly like Little Red Riding Hood being targeted by the big bad wolf. I curled up under the blanket, refusing to listen, no matter how much he tried to soothe me. And I absolutely would not admit that I was eventually lured out by a late-night snack. Ryan Carter, you're abusing your power. I'm going to sue you, I huffed indignantly. He chuckled, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Okay, I'll send you a lawsuit template. I should have known I could never win an argument with him. No matter how upset I got, he always remained calm and unbothered, looking at me with that infuriatingly indulgent gaze. Fine, if I couldn't outtalk him, I could at least get some compensation. Buy me a handbag. Make it hurt a little, just so I can feel a bit better. After everything he put me through tonight, I deserved a little reward, didn't I? He raised an eyebrow. You still dare to bring up handbags? The repair costs for the car will be deducted from your allowance. I turned around in shock, my eyes still damp with lingering tears. Why? I already admitted I was wrong. You always admit you're wrong, and then you do it again. But you already punished me. Not enough to make the lesson stick. From now on, I'll only transfer you $200 a day. If you behave, I'll take you shopping when I have time. My jaw dropped. $200 a day? His mouth was so sexy, so why did it say such cruel things? $200 isn't enough. I'd use that up in one meal with my girlfriends. Ryan ignored my protests, casually massaging his temple with one hand, eyes closed. I quickly clung to his leg, switching to a pleading tone. Honey, don't be like this. How about giving me $5 a month just so I have a little breathing room? Okay, please? Ryan's eyes shot open in disbelief, his lips twitching as if he were holding back laughter. Are you serious? I nodded vigorously. That means you agree, right? I'll be waiting for the transfer. A deep chuckle escaped him. I felt victorious. I was truly a genius. Sometimes you just had to fight for your own interests. He sighed, pulling me into his arms. I really don't trust you to manage your own money. You'd probably get scammed and even help the con artist count the cash. That's nonsense. Like that would ever happen. But just as I was basking in my small victory, the next morning I was hit with an unexpected ambush. His mother, hearing noises in the living room. I instinctively shrank under the covers. Is that your mom? I whispered. Ryan was already putting on his robe. I'll go check. You sleep in. Through the slightly open door, I could hear their conversation. Is she still asleep? Yeah, she was exhausted last night. Let her rest a little longer. His mother lowered her voice, clearly trying to be discreet. You two shouldn't overwork yourselves either. You're young, it's the best time to have a baby. God knows I had planned to stay up late last night to finish my work, but things didn't go as planned. Barefoot, I crept closer to the door, curious to hear how Ryan would handle his mother's sudden push for grandchildren. She's still young, there's no rush, he replied casually. I scoffed. Young? I was not that young. His mother clearly wasn't convinced either. 22 isn't young anymore. Besides, you're almost 30. If you have kids now, I can still help you take care of them. Ryan was running out of ways to deflect. I smirked. Now let's see how he gets out of this one. I couldn't bear it anymore. Taking a deep breath, I pulled open the door and stepped out. Mom, you're here. Why didn't you tell me in advance? I would have come to pick you up. Smiling, I walked over and hugged her. This old lady always acted tough, but she was soft at heart. Every time I hugged her, She would complain about me being too clingy, yet her smile would bloom like a flower. "Oh my dear, you're finally awake. I brought you some hot soup. Drink it while it's warm." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ryan let out a quiet sigh of relief. He leaned back, watching me butter up his mother with an amused smirk. I obediently drank the entire bowl of soup she had brought, making sure to show her the empty bottom. "Look, I finished it all. I hope to earn some extra points." Meanwhile, Ryan stared at the untouched bowl of herbal soup in front of him with an obvious look of reluctance. He frowned slightly. "Mom, you really don't have to go through all this trouble making this soup every time. I get nosebleeds." His mother waved a dismissive hand. "I adjusted the ingredients this time. I removed a few of the heat-inducing herbs, so you won't get a nosebleed. Just drink it. Don't worry." Ryan had never liked soups with medicinal flavors. Before he could stop me, I grabbed his bowl and downed it in one go. Even my hiccups tasted like herbs. Honestly, I didn't mind it at all. I actually kind of liked it. His mother smiled in satisfaction, packing up the empty dishes. "Still, my boy is the best." Under the table, Ryan reached for my hand, giving it a small squeeze. I shot him a quick glare, but it was just a silent exchange of understanding between us. This was his way of thanking me for stepping in. Before she left, Ryan's mother left me a whole stash of soup ingredients, reminding me to make it often to take care of my health. "You need to take care of your body. The sooner you have a baby, the better." I nodded, seeing her out the door. But the moment I turned around, I felt something warm trickling down. Drip, drip. Nosebleed. Ryan's expression immediately darkened, his brows furrowing with concern. Without a word, he grabbed a tissue, gently pressing it against my nostrils while pinching the sides of my nose. I groaned. "Next time, let's just skip the soup." He chuckled softly. "She's retired. She needs to find a sense of purpose. Just let her be." I looked up and met his gaze, his deep brown eyes filled with warmth. He smiled faintly. Silly. With Ryan off at work, I finally had time to meet up with my best friend, Claire. Claire and I met at an art exhibition years ago. Later, she married into a wealthy family and fully embraced the lifestyle of a socialite. When she heard that my allowance for this month was only $5, she nearly dropped her drink. "No way. Ryan Carter of all people? That's just ridiculous." Then she narrowed her eyes at me. "Wait, are you dumb? If he gives you $200 a day, that's $6,000 a month. But you just had to ask for a lump sum of $5? Did you not do the math?" Honestly, I wasn't surprised by her reaction. Even Ryan had laughed at me about this all night. Seeing how pleased he was with himself, I decided to just let him have his moment. Right now, I was in a bit of a financial pinch. I had just graduated and hadn't started working yet. The money from my published artwork hadn't been transferred to my account either, so technically, I was flat broke. I had found a well-connected marketing expert who could introduce the potential clients to commission my artwork required an upfront payment. Since custom artwork was my main source of income, it was worth the investment as long as I had clients. I was confident I could make it work, but with Ryan only giving me $200 a day, I'd have to wait a whole month before I could afford this. That meant losing potential commissions, which wasn't ideal. After thinking about it, I decided to take the one loss as a trade-off for buying myself time. After listening to my explanation, Claire nodded in approval. "Your love for money is truly relentless." I smirked but kept my head down, focusing on my sketch. Who doesn't love money? Only fools don't. Once I finished the commission piece, I glanced at my watch. I needed to head home and cook dinner. "Didn't you just say you were broke?" Claire raised an eyebrow. "Ryan's been working late a lot recently. I want to make him something nice and bring it to him." Claire sighed dramatically. "So you're ditching me for him? No shopping." I pinched her chubby cheeks playfully. "Once I start making money, I'll take you on a proper shopping spree." Fine, fine. Just be careful on your way." After a long afternoon of running around, I finally finished packing a homemade meal along with a pot of soup. By the time I arrived at Ryan's law firm, it was right around lunchtime. Inside, everyone was sitting at their desks eating. I had prepared a feast. "Come and eat, everyone." The moment Luke saw me, his face lit up with a huge grin. Sister-in-law, you're finally here. I've missed your cooking so much. Without hesitation, he reached out, opened one of the containers, and stuffed a big piece of beef into his mouth. Just then, Ryan stepped out of his office. When he saw me, the exhaustion on his face finally eased, replaced by a soft smile. I heard the noise and knew you were here. Whoa, boss, this is the good stuff. Pure nourishment. Laughter erupted from the others in the office. I turned around and saw that Luke had already opened the pot of soup I had made specifically for Ryan. Ryan's face darkened instantly. Is all your work done? Do you want to stay late for overtime? His voice was calm, but the threat was clear. Luke immediately straightened his back, barely holding back his laughter as he carefully handed the soup to Ryan. My mistake, boss. Take care of your health. I followed Ryan into his office, watching him pick up a piece of beef tendon from the soup, his expression unreadable. I felt my palms start to sweat. Do you think I need this? He asked, his voice dangerously low. No, absolutely not. I waved my hands frantically, trying to explain. Your mom said it helps with fatigue. My head dropped lower and lower. Oh, and he leaned back slightly, amusement flickering in his eyes. I sighed. If you don't like it, just throw it out. Ryan's lips curled up slightly, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he simply picked up the bowl and drank it all in one go. As he set the empty bowl down, he gave me a meaningful look. Don't regret it later. Why did I always dig my own grave? What was I even thinking? Ryan got busy with work again, completely focused as if he had forgotten about time itself. Watching him so immersed, I didn't have the heart to interrupt. Luckily, his office had a small resting area. I lay down on the couch, and before I knew it, I had fallen asleep. Half conscious, I felt the bed sink slightly beside me. A familiar warmth pressed against my body as strong arms wrapped around me, pulling me into a secure embrace. I couldn't tell if I was awake or still dreaming. Then suddenly, I opened the door to my home and saw blood everywhere. The thick metallic scent filled the air, suffocating me. My heart pounded in panic as I rushed toward the bedroom, only to trip over the carpet. I looked up, and in that moment, I saw my parents lying motionless beneath the bed, their eyes empty and lifeless. No, I jolted awake, drenched in sweat. Another nightmare. Ryan's voice was full of concern as he immediately pulled me into his arms, his large hand gently patting my back in comfort. I gradually calmed down, but my body was still trembling. Clutching his waist tightly, I buried my face in his chest, breathing in his familiar scent. Only then did I feel a sense of security return. I dreamed of that day again. Ryan stiffened for a moment, then continued rubbing my back in soothing strokes. Don't be afraid. It's all in the past. Gao Jiong is dead. Hearing that name still sent chills down my spine. My scalp tingled with fear. Ryan and I first met because of him, and he was the one who had dragged me into an abyss of endless nightmares. Everything started with the Jiangbi family massacre 5 years ago. Back then, I was 17, about to enter my final year of high school. That night, the school had arranged an evening study session, which was the only reason I wasn't home when it happened. That was how I survived the bloodbath. Gao Jiong broke into our home to steal, but when my parents caught him, he brutally murdered them. But he didn't leave immediately. After seeing my photo on the desk, he hid in the house, waiting for me to come back. When I stepped through the door that night and saw the horror inside, saw him standing behind the curtains, I turned and ran for my life. I stumbled, crawled, and screamed. Luckily, a neighbor heard the commotion and called the police in time. That was the only reason I escaped. But the lawsuit afterward was a nightmare of its own. Gao Jiong denied all charges of intentional murder. He put on an innocent face and only admitted to theft. He claimed that my parents had attacked him first, forcing him to act in self-defense. You're lying. I had screamed at him in the courtroom. My parents were devout Buddhists. They would never hurt anyone. It was an uphill battle. I lost everything. I wandered the streets, drowning in despair, and then in the middle of it all, I saw a post of Ryan Carter on a poster. He was dressed in a sharp suit, his gaze piercing through the camera like a blade. At such a young age, he had already made a name for himself in the legal world. I went through countless obstacles before finally getting a chance to meet him. I hadn't held much hope. After all, his legal fees were sky-high, and he was notoriously selective with his cases. But to my surprise, he agreed immediately. Later, we won the case. Gao Chong was sentenced to death. Execution carried out immediately. Even though justice was served, I was still left as an orphan. That year, Ryan was only 24. He stood at my doorstep, backlit by the sunlight, looking like an angel who had descended to earth. "Come home with me," he said. From the shadows where I had been hiding, I slowly stepped forward and took the hand he extended toward me. That moment, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't completely alone in this world. After that, I moved into Ryan's apartment in the city center. The master bedroom had an ensuite bathroom, but he gave it to me and slept in his study instead. He often worked late into the night. The trauma of losing my parents hit me hard. My grades, which had always been in the top 3 of my class, plummeted. When I received my report card and needed a guardian's signature, I hesitated outside Ryan's study for a long time, too afraid to go in. I feared seeing disappointment in his eyes, feared that he would no longer want me. But he didn't scold me. Instead, he flipped through my test paper, pointed out the mistakes, and patiently guided me through each correction. "It's okay, just do your best. Don't pressure yourself too much." Whenever he had time, he would help tutor me. Day after day, little by little, my shattered heart began to heal. The more I saw him, the harder my heart would pound, but it seemed like he was deliberately keeping his distance. So I started avoiding him too. I rejected his tutoring, forced myself to suppress feelings I shouldn't have, and buried my emotions deep inside. The stress and depression weighed heavily on me. When college entrance exams came, I panicked and underperformed, losing my chance to get into my dream university. But that year I turned 18. I no longer needed a guardian. Ryan was always perceptive. He noticed my withdrawal, my attempts to distance myself. The night I packed my bags and prepared to move out, he blocked the doorway. "Don't go." I kept my head down, unable to meet his eyes. "I've disturbed you for too long. You should have your own life now." He grabbed my suitcase and set it aside. "Don't say such nonsense." "I mean it," I said, biting back the lump in my throat as I reached for my bag again. But he didn't let go. I stubbornly looked up at him, only to be caught off guard by a sudden deep kiss. I trembled. It was my first kiss and his. With that kiss, Ryan pulled me out of the darkness. He always told me, "You don't have to do anything, just be happy." Over time, I truly started to heal. I learned to smile again, to be playful and carefree. I also became increasingly dependent on him. Though truthfully I could handle things on my own. I could rip open a package with my bare hands, but if he was around, I'd always act like I couldn't. I could dance in high heels without missing a beat, but the moment he was with me, I'd complain about being tired just so he'd carry me home on his back. Relying on him made him feel needed. "What would you do without me?" he would tease, his eyes filled with satisfaction and pride. I would wrap my arms around him, smirk, and throw his words right back at him. "What would you do without me?" The truth was I took care of him in my own way. I kept our home spotless, simmered nourishing soups, cooked delicious meals, and washed and pressed his shirts until they were perfectly crisp. He never knew where his clothes were. I even had to lay out his underwear for him. I managed every detail of his life down to the smallest thing. One day he sighed in defeat. "Seems like I can't live without you after all." That moment, I realized how fulfilling it was to be needed by someone. Sometimes when I looked at my reflection in the mirror, with my clear complexion and rosy cheeks, I could hardly remember the 17-year-old girl who used to sit curled up in the corner of a classroom crying. When I woke up in the morning, Ryan was already awake. His dark circles were heavy. "You woke up thinking about your parents again, didn't you?" he murmured. "You kept talking in your sleep." I gently cupped his face. "I'm sorry I didn't let you rest properly." He scoffed softly, shaking his head. "There you go again, saying silly things. I took the day off today. I'll go with you to visit them." Ryan was always like this, gentle, attentive, always catching even the smallest shifts in my emotions. We drove toward the cemetery in the suburbs. The fields were covered in wildflowers blooming in every direction. Standing in front of my parents' graves, I looped my arm around Ryan. Mom, Dad, you don't have to worry anymore. Ryan takes good care of me. I eat well, dress well, I'm happy. Ryan pulled me into his embrace, lowering his head to plant a silent kiss on my hair. The reality of this moment was so steady, so reassuring. It was enough. Afterward, Ryan drove me home. Just as we arrived, he got a call from his law firm. Go ahead, don't worry about me. I'll just rest for a bit. I reassured him. He hesitated slightly. I smiled, taking his hand in mine. Really, I'm fine on my own. At least let me drop you off at the front gate. I waved at him as he drove away, then turned around only to nearly bump into someone. Sorry, did I step on you? The man shook his head but didn't say a word. A strange uneasiness crept up my spine. Forcing a polite smile, I turned and started walking toward my apartment complex, but the man followed. The faster I walked, the quicker his steps became. I had just reached the security booth, about to call for the guard, but before I could react, he caught up to me. A cold, sharp blade pressed against my waist. His voice was low, almost a whisper against my ear. You know what to do. My breath caught as my eyes darted toward the empty security booth. Swallowing hard, I forced my legs to keep moving. Leading him inside. What do you want? Go to the underground parking lot. Get in your car. Ryan's Maybach had just been repaired and was now parked in its usual spot, alone and untouched. The man shoved me into the driver's seat, keeping the tip of the knife pressed against my side. Who are you? If it's money you want, I have some cash in my bag you can take. His eyes narrowed, his voice trembling slightly as if holding back his emotions. I don't need money. I need Ryan Carter to be my defense lawyer. A cold chill ran down my spine. I hit someone. I don't want to go to prison. I swallowed again, trying to steady my voice. Is it serious? Was the person hurt badly? They didn't die right away, so I stabbed them a few more times. My blood ran cold. They're dead, obviously. His voice was laced with impatience. If they weren't, would I be here right now? Call Ryan Carter, tell him to save me. Otherwise, he pressed the blade in slightly. I'll kill you right here. My mind raced. Wait. Don't do anything rash. Judging by the way you dress, you must come from a good family. As long as you have money, there's always a way out, right? His breathing slowed, no longer as frantic. I took the chance to keep talking. Ryan is stubborn, but he listens to me. I can talk to him for you. Call him now. I dialed Ryan's number, but all I got was a busy signal. He was probably in a meeting. The man's face twisted in anger. Drive. Get out of the complex. The roads became increasingly remote. I didn't know where he was taking me, but I knew one thing for sure. If I kept going along with him, I would be the one at a disadvantage. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a small roadside barbecue stand. Without thinking, I jerked the steering wheel, sending the car crashing into a streetlight. The impact was brutal. I didn't hesitate. I yanked off my seatbelt and bolted out of the car. People rushed over, forming a crowd. I grabbed a passerby. Call the police, please. When Ryan finally arrived, it was the first time I had ever seen him look so panicked. I stood there completely at a loss. I crashed the car again, but before I could say anything else, he pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I thought I might break. His voice was low and firm, each word striking my heart. Nothing is more important than your life. The man was arrested. He begged Ryan over and over again, hoping he would defend him and cover up his crimes. But knowing Ryan's principles, how could that ever happen? Ryan was furious. He spent the entire day on the phone instructing the law firm to prepare the prosecution documents. I'm going to make sure he rots in prison. I gently rubbed his palm, trying to calm him down. Cheer up, okay? I'm fine, aren't I? If something had really happened to you, I would never forgive myself for the rest of my life. That was just how Ryan was. He could tease me all he wanted, but the moment someone else so much as touched me, he would make them pay back tenfold. Since I had been in a car accident, Ryan insisted on taking me to the hospital for a checkup. When his mother arrived, she was furious. She stormed up and punched Ryan twice on the arm. Why can't you learn to be a little more flexible? You insist on making enemies everywhere. Stop dragging my daughter-in-law into your messes. Ryan remained silent. standing there and taking the scolding. My heart ached for him. "Mom, it's not that he is inflexible," I said, grinning. "He understands the ways of the world. He just chooses not to follow them. And I like him that way." That made her laugh. She rolled her eyes at Ryan before muttering, "You're lucky she spoils you." Of course I spoiled him. He was my husband after all. In a world where money ruled everything, Ryan had refused to be bought, standing firm on his beliefs. That, to me, was his greatest quality. As his wife, I could never be a burden to him. Recently, I had been receiving a lot of commission work for my artwork. Seeing my bank balance grow, I finally understood the joy of making my own money. Of course, this was from a secret bank account, also known as my rainy day fund. But I had already decided that with my first paycheck, I would treat Ryan to a nice meal. I sent him a message from a restaurant near his law firm. "Mr. Carter, would you be free for lunch with this humble lady?" "My treat." Ryan replied almost immediately. "Never miss an opportunity. Name your price." I rolled my eyes. "I'm not asking for money. I just got my first paycheck, and I want to treat you to a meal." Such a suspiciously kind gesture. "Send me your location." I sighed. This was exactly why I had such a love-hate relationship with him. Sometimes his words were sharper than a knife. While waiting at a window seat, I got bored and started taking selfies. Suddenly, I heard the sharp clack of high heels approaching. Looking up, I saw a gorgeous woman walk through the door. She wore a silk blouse tucked into a fitted pencil skirt, her long curls cascading over her shoulders. The moment she stepped inside, she caught the attention of nearly every man in the room. I had always admired beautiful women, so I couldn't help but stare a little longer. But then I realized she was walking toward me. "You must be Mrs. Carter," she said, smiling warmly. "I recognized you from the photo on Mr. Carter's desk." I blinked. "And you are?" She gracefully took the seat across from me, her smile never wavering. "My name is Yuna. I'm an intern at Carter and Associates. I work under Mr. Carter." Oh, not only was she gorgeous, but she was also talented. "I've heard only the best in the industry can get into Ryan's law firm," I commented. Yuna smiled, her bright red lips parting to reveal perfect teeth. She really was stunning. "I'm actually Ryan's junior from law school," she explained. "I wouldn't have made it here without his help. He's been taking great care of me ever since I moved to this city. I don't know what I would have done without him." Something about her words rubbed me the wrong way. Still out of politeness, I called a waiter over. "You've been talking for a while. Want to order? Something to drink? How about a milk tea?" She shook her head lightly. "Just a glass of water, please. I'm like Mr. Carter. We're not fond of sweet drinks." I sighed inwardly. Why did she keep bringing him up? Annoyed, I lowered my head and quickly sent Ryan a message. "You have 10 minutes. If you're not here, you're sleeping in the study tonight." Meanwhile, Yuna continued speaking. "Ryan really enjoys this brand of sugar-free tea," she said, pulling out her phone. "When we traveled for a case last time, we even took a picture together. Let me show you." As she flipped through her gallery, an image suddenly popped up, a photo of Ryan asleep in bed. In the picture, Yuna was sitting beside him, smiling at the camera, pointing playfully at his sleeping face. Even if it was just a fleeting moment, the implication was enough to make my blood run cold. I was sure now the man in the photo was Ryan. He quickly snatched the phone back from Yuna. "Last month during the business trip, I had too much to drink." She helped me back to my room. I wasn't sure if he had intentionally let that slip or if it was just an accident, but my mind went completely blank. I suddenly remembered that night, Ryan's only business trip where he hadn't called me before bed. What were they talking about so happily? Yuna's eyes practically sparkled when she saw Ryan walk in. Ryan took the seat beside me and reached for my iced tea, frowning. "You shouldn't be drinking cold drinks right now." I shot him a glare, grabbed the cup, and took a big sip out of spite. "I'll drink whatever I want. Stay out of it." The air became tense. Yuna gave a slightly awkward smile. "I'll leave you two alone." Then Ryan, without a word, took the iced tea from me and replaced it with a cup of hot water. "Drink something warm." I ignored him. Instead, I looked him straight in the eye and asked, "Last month on Tuesday the 18th during your business trip, why didn't you answer my call that night?" My voice was steady, but my heart was pounding. Ryan, you better give me a reasonable explanation. Otherwise, you'll never see me again. Ryan's brows furrowed. I drank too much that night. I called you the next morning to explain. And who did you sleep with that night? I wasn't buying his excuses. Ryan remained silent, but his face darkened. I forced a smile. Is it because other women are gentler than me? His expression was complicated. It was the same look he always had when I threw a tantrum. Helpless but unwilling to argue. Jean Nannen, he said, calling my full name, a rare thing unless he was genuinely upset. Don't talk to me like a parent scolding a child. I snapped, yanking my arm free. You're not my whole world anymore. Without another word, I grabbed my bag and stormed toward the door. Nannen. Ryan chased after me, but I had already stepped on the gas, leaving him in a cloud of exhaust. Through the rearview mirror, I saw him standing there, growing smaller and smaller in the distance. My phone rang nonstop, his name flashing on the screen. Without hesitation, I declined the call. Maybe some women would struggle to hang up, but not me. When I was hurt, I shut down completely, like a stone, cold and unyielding. The phone lit up again, but this time it was an unknown number. Did he really think I'd come running back just because he changed his number? Annoyed, I picked up. Stop calling me. I don't want to talk to you. There was a brief pause, then a male voice said, Hello. I'm opening a new restaurant and need someone to design murals for the interior. Someone recommended you. Oh, business. Well, if men were unreliable, at least making money wasn't. Sure, send me the address. I'll be there soon. I drove for a long time before finally arriving at a small restaurant. A tall man wearing a white baseball cap was standing by the entrance, probably the owner. As I stepped out of the car, he walked up to me and extended his hand. Hi, I'm Kellen. I'd like you to design some murals for my restaurant. I shook his hand briefly, noticing how firm and strong his grip was before pulling away. Got it. Do you have a theme in mind? Let me show you the layout first, he said, opening the restaurant door and gesturing for me to follow. I hesitated slightly upon seeing the empty restaurant, but he immediately smiled. Don't worry, I'm not a creep. His attempt to reassure me only made me feel more on edge, but I didn't want to appear rude, so I stepped inside. The walls were worn and cracked, and the air smelled musty. If you want murals, you might need to repaint the walls first, I said, turning back only to see the eerie glint in Kellen's eyes. A chill ran down my spine. Jean Nannen, he said, his voice dangerously low. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Before I could react, something hard slammed against my head. Pain exploded through my skull. The last thing I saw was Kellen swinging a baseball bat toward me, then darkness. When I regained consciousness, my head was still throbbing. I was in a dimly lit, damp room. The air was thick with the scent of mildew. Kellen sat in a chair across from me, smiling faintly. You look even better than before, he said. If you weren't my enemy, I might have fallen for you. I tried to struggle, but my entire body was tightly bound. I don't hold grudges against people. You must have the wrong person. Kellen sneered, lighting a cigarette. Even if you turned to ashes, I wouldn't mistake you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph of me at 17. My breath caught in my throat. This was the same photo Gag Chong had taken from my room all those years ago. I slowly looked up at Kellen, and that's when I saw it, the resemblance. His sharp eyes, the slight curve of his brow. You're his son, I whispered. Kellen grinned. Smart girl. His fingers tightened around my jaw, his eyes burning with hatred. My father could have gotten a suspended death sentence, but you had to go and hire Ryan Carter, leaving him with no way out. I met his gaze, fury burning in my chest. I gave him no way out? Who gave my parents a way out? Before Kellen could respond, my phone rang again. Ryan's name flashed. On the screen, Kellen let out a cold laugh. Ryan Carter loves you so much. Do you think if he finds your body rotting in the wilderness, he'll be heartbroken? Fear gripped me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I let out a dry chuckle. Ryan and I are as good as over. He cheated on me last month with his female colleague. If you kill me, you'll actually be doing him a favor by getting rid of an obstacle. He'd probably be relieved, not heartbroken. Kellen's grip on my jaw tightened. I've been watching him for a long time, he muttered. That man barely even looks at other women except for you. Hearing Ryan's loyalty confirmed by a criminal, I wasn't sure whether to feel happy or devastated. Happy that despite everything, I was the only woman Ryan had ever loved. Devastated that I might not live long enough to see him again. Say what you need to say and know when to shut up. Kellen pressed the tip of a curved knife against my throat and answered the call, putting it on speaker. Nanan, it's me. I took a deep breath then snapped. Ryan, you're so annoying. I'm busy. Ryan had once told me if either of us was ever in danger, we had a secret code. No matter how much we argued, we never said, "You're annoying." That phrase was our signal. There was a 2-second pause when Ryan spoke again, his voice dangerously low. Are you with someone? Kellen's grip tightened, warning me. I forced a casual tone. It's just the two of us. Just one person. I swallowed. It's late. I'll be home soon. Don't be scared. Ryan said softly. I'm calling the police now. No need. My friend's father passed away and he's upset. I'm just keeping him company. That was all I could say. It was our unspoken understanding. Ryan would know. Kellen snatched the phone and hung up. He grabbed my collar, yanking me forward. You talk too much. But I knew one thing for sure. Ryan would come for me. Kellen, however, was far more twisted than I had imagined. He pulled out a collection of knives, carefully wiping them clean. The sharp blades gleamed under the dim light, reflecting my terrified face. Do you know why I opened a restaurant? He grinned, his voice eerily calm. It's for this moment, to chop you up and make dumplings. No one will ever find a trace of you. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs. I was terrified, but I couldn't cry. Showing fear in front of him would only fuel his sick pleasure. I forced myself to keep talking. Ryan once handled a case just like this, I said, watching him carefully. The killer thought they were clever, grinding up bones and mixing them into food, but in the end human bones gave them away. Kellen paused, his grip on the knife faltering slightly. If you really want to kill someone and make them disappear, I continued, keeping my voice steady. There's a type of strong acid that can dissolve an entire body, bones and all. Kellen let out a dark chuckle and walked toward me, his eyes gleaming like a predator. I've been watching you for years, Jean Nanan, he murmured. Everyone thinks you're just a naive little girl, but I know better. You're good at pretending. He lifted his hand and slapped me hard across the face. A sharp sting spread through my cheek, followed by the metallic taste of blood trickling from the corner of my lips. Even injured, he looked at me with admiration. You still look so beautiful, he sneered. No wonder Ryan treasures you so much. But I wonder, if I carve up that pretty face of yours, will he still want you? Why don't you try and find out? A deep, familiar voice echoed from the doorway. I looked up, my heart pounding. Ryan stood there, his face ice cold, his presence like a god descending from the heavens. Ryan's gaze swept over my injuries, and instantly, a murderous aura filled his eyes. Well, Mr. Carter. Long time no see. For a brief moment, Kellen looked startled, but then he smirked and strode toward Ryan. You warned me back then, said if I so much as touched a hair on her head, you'd take my life. Well, I've touched her now. What are you going to do about it? He grinned arrogantly, but in the next second, Ryan's fist smashed into his face. Kellen stumbled back, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. He clenched his fists and lunged. Ryan raised his leg and kicked him hard in the stomach. Kellen collapsed onto the ground, groaning in pain. Again and again, the fight continued. I had never seen Ryan this ruthless before. He was like a predator, completely merciless. Kellen stood no chance. He was already struggling to breathe, barely able to move. Ryan quickly walked over to me and untied the ropes. Tears welled up in my eyes. If you had been any later, you'd be a widower by now. I surprised even myself with how soft and delicate my voice sounded. Just moments ago, I had been playing the fearless femme fatale against Kellen, but now I had reverted to being Ryan's helpless little wife. Ryan's arms wrapped around me, his voice shaking. I'm sorry. I hugged him tightly, but just as I looked up, I saw Kellen suddenly get back on his feet. He grabbed a knife from the table and charged at Ryan. For a split second, my heart stopped. Without thinking, I threw myself in front of Ryan, shielding him. If I had to die for him, it would be worth it. Ryan's expression was filled with shock and disbelief, but before the blade could reach me, a loud crash echoed behind me. I turned around and saw Kellen sprawled face first on the ground, completely tangled in the ropes that had once bound me. He wasn't getting up this time. The sight was both terrifying and ridiculous at the same time. I suddenly felt embarrassed about my dramatic declaration of love just moments ago. Burying my face in Ryan's chest, I mumbled, "Forget what I said earlier." Ryan chuckled, hugging me tighter. Who was it that said she'd die for me? Why so quiet now? Shut up, I huffed, covering his mouth with my hand. Why was he always like this? Just then, the sound of sirens filled the air. The police had arrived. I called them before coming, Ryan explained. I looked up at him. How did you know I was here? I installed a tracker on your phone, he admitted. Oh, right after that. The last time I was kidnapped, Ryan had insisted on adding a tracking system to my phone. At the time, I had thought it was unnecessary, but now it had saved my life. I needed to grab my phone. That phone was my lifeline. I walked over to the table, picked it up and turned back to Ryan with a smile. Got it. He smiled and reached out his hand. Let's go home. Just as I stepped toward him, a deafening explosion erupted behind me. Ryan's smile vanished in an instant. Before I could react, a metal frame flew toward me, slamming into my body. Everything faded into darkness. I felt like I was floating in an endless void, unable to find my way out. In the distance, I saw my parents walking toward me. Their faces were warm and kind, just like I remembered. Dad. Mom. My voice trembled. I miss you so much. I ran toward them, but my hands grasped at nothing but air. Nanan, you don't belong here yet, my mother's voice said gently. Go back. Ryan needs you. Their figures slowly faded into the distance. I stood there helplessly, knowing Ryan must be losing his mind right now. I couldn't die. I thought back to the night Ryan brought me home after my parents died. I had lost the will to live. One night, overwhelmed by despair, I slit my wrist as I watched the crimson blood trickle down. Tears streamed silently down my face. My vision blurred. My consciousness faded. The last thing I heard was Ryan's frantic voice. In my haze, I saw hospital ceiling lights flashing above me, Ryan's panicked expression, and the redness in his eyes. Jean Nanan, if you die, I will never forgive you for the rest of my life. That was the last thing I heard before everything went dark. He had always treated me like his most precious treasure. How could I give up now? I forced my heavy eyelids open. The steady beeping of medical equipment filled the air. My hand was being held tightly. I turned my head and saw Ryan asleep beside my bed, his head resting near my arm. I wanted to reach out and touch his thick hair, but I was too weak to lift my hand. Sensing my movement, he woke up, his eyes widening in surprise and relief. But what shocked me more was his face. His usual clean-shaven jaw was now covered in stubble. Ryan, why didn't you shave? My voice was hoarse. You don't look handsome anymore. Maybe a light-hearted opening would ease the tension. As expected, he smiled, rubbing my palm gently. I've been watching over you every day. I didn't have time to shave. Ryan immediately called the doctor to check on me. The results showed that all my vital functions were normal. He finally let out a breath of relief and sat down beside me. Thinking back to what had happened that day, Kellen had already rigged the place with explosives beforehand. Even in his dying breath, he had managed to press the detonator. Fortunately, I wasn't too close to the blast point, but the flying debris had hit me hard, leaving me injured. The good news was that my recovery was going well. During my hospital stay, Ryan's mother visited me several times, bringing her infamous 10-ingredient nourishing soup. I couldn't stomach another bowl, so I had no choice but to force Ryan to drink it instead. He wasn't happy about it, but under my relentless persuasion and minor threats, he finally swallowed it down. When I recover, buy me a handbag, okay? I grinned at him. Also, your Maybach is wrecked, so how about getting me a BMW C4 instead? Ryan nearly choked on the soup but still nodded. Okay, now is the perfect time to make demands. I needed to seize this rare opportunity to take full advantage of him. Can you also increase my monthly allowance? Every time I go out with Claire, she always pays. It's embarrassing that I never get to treat her. Fine, Ryan sighed, peeling an apple and handing it to me. Anything else? Whatever you want, I'll make it happen. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Forget it, he's my husband after all. No need to exploit him too much. Nope, that's all. Thank you. Happily, I took a big bite of the apple, completely content. Just then, the hospital room door swung open, and Claire walked in, sniffling dramatically. Jean Nanan, if you hadn't woken up, Ryan would have driven everyone around him insane. She pulled out a bank card and placed it in my hand. Take this, your medical bills are covered, and this is your artwork copyright fee. Over $1 million in total. If you don't want it, I'll gladly take it. Ryan, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened them and stared at me. Oh no, how could I let him find out about my secret stash of money? Sensing the tension, Claire let out a nervous chuckle. Actually, I just remembered I have something urgent to do. I'll come visit again in a few days. She bolted out of the room. The door had barely closed when Ryan leaned in, his eyes narrowing. Over $1 million in copyright fees? He murmured. Yet you told me you didn't have money to treat Claire to a meal? I rubbed my temples. Suddenly, my head started aching again. After finally being discharged, I returned home to find everything spotless. Ryan's mother had taken care of the place, even leaving food warm in the kitchen. A lump formed in my throat. After losing my parents, I thought the world had abandoned me. But instead, I had gained a new life, a new family. Oh dear, what's this? Are you crying? Ryan's mother walked over and pinched my cheek. Ryan glanced at me and smirked. She must be overwhelmed by your love, Mom. Well, she should be. His mother nodded firmly. By the way, I made another pot of soup for you both. Drink it and rest early. I'll be heading home. My flowers are waiting to be watered. As she walked toward the door, she gave Ryan a meaningful look, patted his shoulder, and whispered, "Get to work, Mom." Ryan groaned, exasperated. His mother simply laughed, closed the door, and even took the trash out on her way. I stood frozen in place while Ryan's gaze darkened. "Are you tired?" he asked, his voice husky. I quickly shook my head. Not at all. Realizing how wrong that sounded, I immediately corrected myself. I mean, yes, I am very tired. Ryan chuckled, removed his glasses. A soft kiss against my lips. Don't worry, I won't touch you until you're fully recovered. That night, he held me in his arms as we slept for the first time in a long while. He slept deeply, so deeply that I even heard him snore faintly. He had been by my side for so long, losing sleep night after night. I didn't know how long it had been since he had a proper rest. Looking at his peaceful sleeping face, my mind suddenly flashed back to Yuna's photo. My anger flared instantly. I reached out and shook him awake. Ryan, still drowsy, opened his eyes under the dim moonlight. "What's wrong?" he asked groggily. "You still haven't explained," I snapped. "What exactly is going on with Yuna? Why does she have a picture of you in bed?" I described the photo I had seen on her phone in detail. Instead of looking guilty, Ryan burst out laughing. "Seriously? You're jealous over that?" He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his gallery, finally stopping at a screenshot from Luke's social media post. The caption read, "Boss got drunk today. Had to take this rare chance to snap a few extra pictures." In the original photo, Luke and Yuna had taken a picture with Ryan while he was drunk, but in Yuna's version, she had cropped Luke out, making it seem like it was just her and Ryan in the photo. So that was the truth behind it. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I chuckled awkwardly. You should go back to sleep," I said. Ryan raised an eyebrow, then flipped over, pressing me beneath him. He pinned my wrists above my head, holding me firmly in place. "Didn't you say you wouldn't do anything until I was fully recovered?" Ryan's lips brushed against mine as he whispered, "That agreement is invalid." Poi. The year Nanine turned 17 was the first time I met her. She walked into my law firm's reception area, her eyes red and filled with tears, sorrow lingering in their depths. That hopeless, helpless expression struck me right in the heart. From that moment on, I swore to protect her for the rest of my life. She wasn't talkative. She only answered when spoken to, often retreating into dark corners, lost in thought. I couldn't stop myself from wanting to understand her. I poured all my effort into her case. Even my colleagues teased me, saying, "How much is this girl paying you for you to be working so hard?" But love never needs a reason. After we won the case, our paths should have never crossed again. But her high ponytail, the way she nervously clutched her pink sweater, and the way she cried like a delicate flower in the rain. These images kept appearing in my dreams over and over again. That's when I realized I had fallen hopelessly in love with her. This was a problem. She was 7 years younger than me. She was still a high school student, but I couldn't stand the thought of her being alone every night. After her evening classes, I would drive behind her from a distance, watching as she walked back to the orphanage. Was she afraid to live there alone? I spoke to my mother about it. She was heartbroken when she heard Naynine's story and agreed to adopt her. That was when I started going home more often. As college entrance exams approached, I moved her into my apartment in the city to make her commute easier. I gave her the master bedroom since it had an attached bathroom, more convenient for a girl. When she realized that I had given up my room for her, she seemed stunned. She hesitated for a moment before whispering, "Thank you." Then she closed the door. I knew if I showed too much concern, she might feel uncomfortable, so I kept my distance, treating her like a younger sister. That was until my mother called me one day, saying that her teacher had reached out. Naynine's grades dropped by over 100 places in the rankings. Before the incident, she had always ranked in the top 3 of her class. A drop this drastic meant that something was wrong. I sat down with her to talk. She kept her head lowered, her fingers tightly clutching the hem of her shirt, silent. "Naynine, it's okay to fail once. You don't need to pressure yourself," I said, clearing my schedule and dropping several cases, so I could personally tutor her. Every night, under the glow of the desk lamp, her long hair would sway slightly, filling the air with a soft, calming fragrance. But I suppressed my feelings. She had a solid foundation in her studies, and with time, her grades steadily improved. Slowly, she started smiling again. The day she got her report card, she beamed with joy and threw herself into my arms. That moment, I knew I was completely in love with her. "I want to get into Central Academy of Fine Arts and become an illustrator," she said. Hearing this, I let out a quiet sigh of relief. She was finally stepping out of her pain and looking toward the future. Sometimes, on nights without study sessions, she would cook and wait for me to come home. "Ryan, I made dinner," she'd say softly, serving me a simple meal, 3 dishes and a soup. The flavors were light, but the food was unexpectedly delicious. "Does it taste good?" She looked at me expectantly. I nodded. "It's good." She was so easy to please. Hearing my response, she smiled so brightly that she ate an extra bowl of rice that night. Between us, something unspoken was growing, something neither of us dared to acknowledge. Then my mother found her diary. She sat me down for a talk. "Naynine is a good girl," she said, her tone serious. "But the gap between you two is too big." "Mom," I sigh. "Stop reading her diary. Let's just pretend we don't know anything. I know what I'm doing." From that day forward, I started avoiding her. I worked overtime more often, buried myself in cases, kept myself busy. I thought she was doing fine until the day of her college entrance exams. She had a breakdown. "I don't deserve to get into Central Academy of Fine Arts," she sobbed. "I don't deserve to be an illustrator. I don't even deserve the kindness you've given me." The moment she saw her results, she locked herself in her room and refused to eat or drink. I was worried she might do something reckless again. I grabbed the key and unlocked the door under the dim moonlight. I saw her crouched in the corner, sobbing. My heart clenched painfully. "Nanan, if you want, I can send you abroad for your studies." "You said you didn't care about me anymore." Her voice was hoarse. "Just leave, I don't want to see you." She grabbed the pillow in his arms and threw it at me. I let out a helpless sigh. "I never stopped caring about you. As long as you're happy, I'm willing to do anything. But would you really be happy staying by my side?" Thinking back on those memories, my chest still tightened with pain. For a long time, we were both trapped in an endless struggle to avoid making things difficult for me. She even considered leaving the house. I spent my days in a daze, barely functioning. Thankfully, in the end, I took that leap of faith. I stopped caring about our age gap, Stopped worrying about what people would say. Those rumors that he was only with me for my status. I ignored it all. Instead, I held on to him tightly, refusing to let go. When she got into college, she chose to stay in the city instead of going far away. She enrolled in an art school to further her studies. Every time I picked him up in my Maybach, her classmates would whisper among themselves. But instead of feeling embarrassed, she only stood taller, puffing out her chest as she got into the car. Then, in a quiet voice, she would murmur in my ear, "Babe, next time can you get out and open the door for me?" I glanced at her. "Why did you lose your hands?" She pouted, her big eyes filled with a pitiful plea. "My classmates keep spreading rumors that I'm being kept by an old man. No matter how much I explain, they don't believe me. If you open the door for me, they'll finally see how young and handsome my husband is." I couldn't keep up with her wild logic, but still I agreed. Every time I saw her running out of school and throwing herself into my arms, I felt like I had reached the pinnacle of happiness. "This is my husband," she would proudly declare to her classmates. "Once I graduate, we're getting married." She never showed the slightest embarrassment. It was as if the girl who once hid in the shadows, crying alone, had completely disappeared. Everything we had gone through, no one else could ever replace that. Even on our wedding day, I, someone who stood at 6 feet 2 inches and considered myself a manly man, actually cried. I cried at the altar in front of all our guests. Nanan, on the other hand, stuck out her tongue playfully and turned to the audience. "Sorry everyone, my husband has a low tolerance for emotional moments," this heartless little troublemaker said right in front of everyone. We vowed to spend the rest of our lives together. Our married life turned out exactly as I had imagined, sweet and full of laughter. After an exhausting day at work, coming home to see her was enough to wipe away all my fatigue. Now she spent her days chattering nonstop, always smiling with pure satisfaction. But she was obsessed with buying handbags. I never understood why women loved bags so much. Different seasons require different bags, according to Nanan. Different moods also require different bags. Out of 365 days a year, aside from Qingming Festival, she found her reason to buy a bag for every single holiday. In the end, I gave up trying to understand. As long as she was happy, it was fine. I just considered it recharging her happiness meter. Honestly, spending money on her was worth it. If I could make her carefree, fill her life with love, and erase all the shadows of her past, then I had already achieved the greatest success of my lifetime.